Welcome to Careers Under Construction. I'm Justice Peterson. On this episode, we speak to Alex Akman, the COO of Shindico Realty. Like a lot of us in our 20s, Alex made a risky move. He quit a job in Ottawa and moved to Toronto. That decision didn't go as planned, but it set him on the winding path that eventually led him to the COO chair of one of Manitoba's largest development firms. We talk about the mentors who shaped him, the $100 million plus in acquisitions he's helped drive, and why building relationships over lunch is still one of the best business strategies. Please enjoy Alex Akman. Alex, thanks for joining us on Careers Under Construction.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So I wanted to obviously talk about your career today, but I want to rewind back to 2012. You graduated from U of T.
Yeah.
And then today, fast forward, you're the COO of Shindico, one of the largest real estate and development companies in Manitoba. So let's go all the way back to U of T. Tell me, why does a kid from Manitoba want to go to U of T?
I was really focused on moving away for school and trying that experience. I did want to get out of Winnipeg for a period of time, but I always had the feeling that I would come back at some point in time. So I applied to a number of universities in Ontario, and U of T was appealing from a city perspective. Sure. I was very interested in living in downtown Toronto and trying that big city life. I probably didn't do enough research in terms of the university and what the program entailed and how challenging it would be. I really believe that it did make me a better person, and I learned a good work ethic there, which is very important for the industry that we're in now, and how to do laundry and how to cook your own meals and how to live. So it was good to break away from that perspective, and I don't regret doing it at all.
Yeah, those life skills when you move away from home when you're, 18? I was 18 when I moved away. I went to McMaster. Were you about the same age?
Yeah, right out of high school, 18 years old. I'm a late birthday November, so I may have even been 17. So yeah, it was good. I lived in res for the first year, and then after that I moved off res and just rented an apartment. The second year I had a roommate, and then I was living on my own after that, and it was really good. Really
awesome,
good.
Man. That's funny. I bet you were going to U of T the same time I was going to McMaster. I wonder if we ever crossed paths in Ontario.
2008 to 2012, I did a little bit of the JDC competition. That year it was in Ottawa, and I believe there was a team from McMaster there from their commerce program, so it's entirely possible.
Funny. So you graduated from U of T. Then what was next after that?
It was a really challenging job market at that time. In 2012, we were just kind of coming out of 2008, 2009. It hit Canada a little bit later in terms of 2010, 2011, and it was a really, really tough job market. I think one of our graduating class got an investment banking job, and it was an offer in Calgary, not even in Toronto. RBC, I think, hired one or two in Toronto that year for investment banking. So it was a very challenging market, and you had a lot of MBA students applying for undergrad jobs. So the competition was tough.
That was always the goal, to be like an iBanker when you graduated
to
from
get some experience like that. I was more interested in consulting. I had spent my third year summer at Deloitte in Winnipeg with their consulting team. It was technology consulting, not strategy consulting, from the perspective of a big SAP implementation for the province for a program that they were rolling out. I liked that, but it wasn't really what I was passionate about, and it was hard for me to burn the midnight oil when you're not super passionate about the role and about the gig. So my thesis was always I wanted to be either in real estate or technology, working for Google or Facebook or a company like that, or doing real estate. Getting into real estate in Toronto was really hard, especially with no experience and not a huge network there. So I ended up getting a job at a company called Capco, which is owned by Fidelity. They are also a technology consultancy. The big project that they had when I was there was TD had bought MBNA credit cards. So TD was implementing the MBNA system on their back of house, and that project was in Ottawa. So I was staffed on a project in Ottawa Monday to Thursday and didn't really like that. I mean, I wanted to live in Toronto. My girlfriend at the time, now wife, was in Toronto. So it was challenging. And I ended up quitting that job without a job, and that was a huge mistake.
Why is that? Why was that a mistake?
Because it's impossible to get a job when like you don't have another job, and especially with very, very limited experience. I only had 6 or 8 months of true work experience under my belt at that time. So now I know, because when I'm reviewing a resume, hopping around isn't something that you're super interested in.
Right.
So that definitely worked against me, and I wasn't really able to get another job. So I pivoted and ended up writing the GMAT and LSAT and enrolling in the CPA CMA program. I was pretty certain I was going to do a JD MBA. That's what I was interested in.
Okay.
But a MBA is pretty useless, especially I realize that's now, without any work experience. So to go there and kind of learn the same thing that I learned in undergrad may not have been the best idea. I did really well on the GMAT and LSAT. I ended up getting a pretty robust scholarship offer to Western to go to Ivy, where I wanted to go to undergrad for the MBA program, but I never really wanted to be a lawyer. So that was something hard that I couldn't really wrap my head around.
Right.
My mom is a lawyer, so I've seen that throughout my entire life, and it just wasn't something I was interested in.
Okay. So how did you end up back in Winnipeg then? So you wrote the LSAT, but you didn't end up going to law school.
No.
Is that when you came back to Winnipeg, or?
I ended up enrolling in the CPA CMA program and starting it in Toronto.
Okay.
I started some of the tests, and I passed a number of the course programs, and I was admitted into the course. Did the first year there. It's a 2-year program, and the second year is more group project and work experience. So at that time, I ended up moving back to Winnipeg in 2014. Part of the reason that I was delayed was my wife was in nursing school at the time at Ryerson. So I was kind of waiting for her to finish, and she was finishing in 2014. So once she finished, we moved to Winnipeg.
Wow. Really cool. And it's interesting that you're able to like pivot your career at such a young age that way too, without any experience. You decided to make a pivot. I heard something the other day that kind of just came into my mind. It says, if you're on a train and you're going in the wrong direction, you need to get off at the nearest stop, because the longer you take that train down the wrong road, the more expensive the return trip becomes, right? And that kind of I think that transcends into a lot of things of value in life, relationships, a project you're working on, but careers more than anything. What would you say to somebody who's maybe, taken the wrong train right now and needed to get off miles ago?
It's so cliche, but you have to find what you're passionate about.
Right.
For me, work is not work. I love what I do, so it's not a problem for me to get to the office before 7 and leave at 5 to see my kids and hop back on the computer at 7 or 8 at night and go in on the weekends and do that kind of thing, because it's not work. I prefer doing what I'm doing to maybe going golfing or playing tennis on a Friday afternoon. So that to me is the most important thing. The second most important thing is you have to want to work, I think, to advance. It's not a coincidence that specifically at our office, the people that work the hardest make the most money and advance their career the fastest. One of the things that Sandy said that stuck with me kind of over the course of my career is the best way to get 20 years of experience is to work 80 hours a week for 10 years.
Interesting. So I'm assuming when you talk about Sandy here, was he your best mentor throughout your
definitely.
career? Yeah,
definitely.
Why is that?
Just very good with young people, a total open Komodo, willing to share everything that he knows, everything that he sees. There's no secrets at our office. The receptionist has access to every budget. They know what all the owners are. They know what the income is. There's no hiding anything. Everything is open, and I think that's very important.
Yeah, full transparency with all the staff. That's great. Okay, so you came back to Winnipeg in 2014, 2015.
Yep.
You started with Shindico in 2015.
Yep.
Sandy's your mentor. Did you latch onto him like right away when you started there, or tell me about
we
your
had a bit
early
of a
days?
familial connection.
Yeah.
My dad and Sandy have known each other for a long time. They've been partners in a strip mall on Henderson Highway since the 80s. So Sandy and Diane joke that they've known me since the womb. So it was a natural transition and progression there. I probably had 10 interviews at Shindico before I got the job, and I started there as lowest level property analyst. But again, because I was passionate about the work and I knew I wanted to work in real estate, it was an easy transition from that perspective and really easy for me to sink my teeth into it. It's also what I know from our family business. Most of my jobs in the summer previously are working construction, or you're stopping at this building when my dad's driving me to school, or you're checking out this site. So I was around it from a young age, and it worked out pretty seamlessly.
Wow, that's great. So 2015, you started as a property analyst, you said.
Yeah.
Fast forward to today, you've obviously climbed the ranks from property analyst to a few roles in between to VP, now COO. How did that happen?
A lot of hard work, a lot of hours. I think also part of any organization is when you get to a certain level, it becomes a sales job, and you have to. The CEO of most companies is in business development, so I was fortunate from that perspective to have a pretty robust network in Winnipeg that I could tap into, and have been able to execute on some pretty significant transactions. So that helped for sure, and. I think one of the most important things was that I've done every job at the office. Been every property analyst role we have. I've been a property manager. I've supervised some of the property managers. I've supervised the analysts. So it's very easy for me to plug and play, or for folks to ask me a question and get some quick guidance, because I can put myself in their shoes very easily. And at Shindico, Sandy was very focused on creating an executive management team with some of the younger folks to ensure that the company will be there for the next generation. Sandy and Diane have a daughter that's at Asper School of Business right now. It's entirely possible that she will join the business with us, but they weren't waiting. And I think Sandy would tell you we don't need to wait. If Annie wants to come, there will definitely be a place for her. But for right now, we need to get our ducks in a row. No one's getting any younger.
Interesting. You said a couple really interesting and powerful things there. The first one was how to be promoted, to climb the ranks, you did every job in the business. That was interesting, but I want to double click on the first thing you said about like how what you really did was you became a business development expert and you grew your network. Can you elaborate on that? Like, how did you do that? How did you build your network?
I had a pretty good network from high school. A lot of my friends that are in decent places right now, and they have family businesses, or they have real estate, for lack of a better term. They also have capital that they want to deploy. We weren't typically in the business of taking outside investments, but it works well from the perspective of it gives you a reason to talk to someone. We can still own 60-70%. We can still have control and make all the decisions, but from bringing and giving other people those opportunities, they invite you into their opportunities. And I think that reciprocal business is something that we're really focused on all the time. If an electrician uses us to lease a space or uses us to buy a building, we want to give them the construction job. So we're very big on reciprocal business. The flip side is also true. If you use someone else to lease your space or buy your building or do your property management, don't ask us for a favor or expect that job. We want reciprocal business. And I think that's kind of springboarded some of what we've been doing.
Right. Reciprocal business, building relationships. Interesting. So outside of people that you already knew or friends that had family businesses, did you do a lot of like cold outreach, cold calling, things like that as well?
One of the things that kind of stuck with me and that I was focused on was trying to have 3 or 4 lunches in my calendar every week. If I'm going out for lunch, I want to be meeting with someone every 3-4 times a week minimum, sometimes 5 times a week. And it can be anyone. It could be brokers, it could be construction professionals, it could be trades, vendors, it could be someone adjacent, an investment advisor, an accountant, a lawyer, really tapping into who knows people who may have a real estate need or may have an opportunity to acquire something. So yeah, there was a decent amount of cold outreach, but it's a warmer touch, I would say, when you're kind of coming from that bigger business like Shindico. It's not that hard to reach out to people, but you still have to do it, and a lot of people don't do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you're right. It's interesting. Like, you started there, but you also had a big brand name behind you. I mean, Shindico has been so well known for so many years, right? Well, how does that impact like your personal brand? Like, do you still feel like it's important to have a personal brand even behind a bigger company brand?
I don't think so. I think we're at the office pretty unified and all is one, and we're not very big on titles or anything like that. It's I wouldn't be able to do what I do if we didn't have the team that we have at the office.
Right.
I wouldn't be able to go buy a 190 unit apartment building and pick up the management in 60 days if we didn't have the very robust and incredible team that we have. So it's not really a personal thing. Yeah. It's all is one, and we're all working together.
Cool. Now, one of the things you mentioned in your pre-interview with us was you're very proud of the fact that you've done over $120 million in acquisitions over the last few years. Can we talk about that a little bit?
For sure.
Can you give us an example of one of the deals that you've done more recently?
One of the bigger ones we did was 1681 to 1699 Pembina Highway, which is Georgetown Park Apartments. You've probably driven by it 5,000 times. A series of 3-story walk-ups on Pembina Highway, orange EFIS on the top. We really like that particular opportunity because it's 7 acres of land on Pembina Highway.
Okay.
And when we're buying things, it's a 20, 30-year outlook.
Right.
One of the things that we were talking about at the office 4 or 5 years ago that's kind of come into vogue now is let's try and find retail sites where we can clip a coupon in the interim. They're amazing locations that will be a multifamily opportunity for the next cycle. We may not be able to build on it now. The numbers may not work now, but if you can buy this mall on Pembina Highway and your per acre cost on the land by the pound isn't that far from bare land, that's an opportunity that we're interested in.
Okay.
And that was a big push in terms of where can we find retail sites where if it doesn't work or the big box goes away, we can tear it down and build an apartment building.
Right.
So that was also kind of parallel to Georgetown, 7 acres of land, low density, 3-story walk-ups. We envisioned adding more density to that site with time. And that was a pretty good opportunity to get a multifamily asset with a lot of land that isn't properly utilized. So that was a really exciting transaction. And then more recently, we did the biggest transaction in our company's history, which was the acquisition of the Transex portfolio.
Wow.
They sold the Transex business, the family, in 2019 to CN Rail, and they kept all of their real estate and did a sale leaseback with CN. So CN had a 10-year lease on all of the old Transex facilities across the country: Vancouver, Edmonton, Calgary, Regina, Winnipeg, Toronto, Guelph, and Montreal.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Massive transaction, just over 210 acres.
Okay.
And that was a 30-year relationship that I've had with one of the family members that kind of allowed that, and Sandy's relationship with the other family members. So it was a really unique circumstance, off market, and just a great deal for both parties, I think.
Right. So you acquired all their assets in all of those cities? Or
We acquired a half interest in the portfolio in all those cities.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I noticed recently, or in the last few years anyway, in my area town, St. James by Cavalier and Portage,
Yes.
there's a strip mall that you had acquired as well. And it's interesting because, before you acquired that building, it had looked, it's a retail strip mall.
Yeah,
it looked really,
3421 Portage.
It looked very tired.
Yes.
We'll call it.
Yes.
But as soon as you guys acquired it, you did like a big facelift. And now there's a lot of new tenants in there that kind of has St. James pretty pumped about that. Like, what made that opportunity appealing for you?
That was a really exciting opportunity, also something that I worked on for quite some time. We had a relationship with that landlord from doing a few deals with him prior. Sandy also had a relationship with his father, and his daughter was my sister's age. So we had known the family forever. They went to high school together, and they were good friends.
You guys have the inside track on that?
A little bit, yeah, a little bit. So he actually hired us just first to manage it. He hired us first to be the property manager. All the tenants were month to month. We had to renew a number of the leases, and we knew that this work had to be done, and he told us he didn't want to do it. He basically hired us to get the property ready for us to have the privilege of paying him more on the sale. So we renewed a number of the tenants. We got some of the spaces fixed up. We got them rented. There was a little vacancy, and then he sold it to us. And then we did the facelift and the roof. So when we're buying retail, we always want a value add opportunity. We're not typically looking for something that's perfect where we can just clip a coupon. We want to get our hands dirty and earn our keep. So that was a really exciting opportunity, but you're really peeling back the onion on some of those construction jobs because the city drawings are wrong, and you're kind of going as you uncover certain conditions.
Yeah. Is that something common in your business where you start as like the property manager and then eventually buy the building down the road with that relationship?
Sometimes. We're not typically big third-party managers.
Right.
We don't have a lot of that in our portfolio. Where we're doing it, it's mostly folks that have a portfolio of assets.
Okay.
And for exactly the reason that you described. We were the managers of the Transex portfolio before we acquired it. So yes, there's decent avenues that way. We like doing that because then the risk is adjusted. We know exactly what we're getting. We've been managing it. There's not going to be any surprises. We know that sewer pipe may not be in great shape, and we just work it into our pro forma.
Right. Okay. Now, we've been talking a little bit about some properties that you've acquired that have already been existing. But Shindico also does a lot of new developments as well. So, like, what's your perspective on old properties to acquire versus let's build something brand new on raw land?
We like acquiring more. If we could acquire more buildings, we probably wouldn't be doing the volume of development that we have. Sandy has a lot of excellent legacy land that was all geared towards retail. So the intention was not to build apartments on Taylor or on Reindeers behind Kildonan Place. That was all earmarked for big box and Canadian Tire and Michaels and people that aren't opening new stores anymore.
Right.
They just happen to be amazing locations that will work from a multifamily. People always ask me about development. I don't say I'm a developer. I say I'm a property manager. And we're happy to tell everyone at the office that we're not developers. We're property managers that do development.
Okay.
And when we're doing development, it is 100% from a property management perspective and operational perspective. The concept of a developer coming in, and telling us how to build the building isn't well received because they may not know that that door is going to hit that wall and there's going to be a scuff there. So maybe we should put a guard on it, and maybe we should spend a little bit more on the lobby and have porcelain tile so that we're not replacing the vinyl plank 3 years in. Everything we do is from a life cycle perspective because we're not going to sell the buildings. So what our calculus is can we spend a little bit more money now with the hopes of saving money down the line, or basically making an investment that's accretive in years 4, 5, and 6. So it's a different calculus than other people. Probably our returns aren't as high in the initial years, but we think we'll benefit on the back end from the perspective of a 100% concrete building with balconies and underground parking. We think our product will be good and stand the test of time.
Yep.
But the development business is really tricky and really hard. I don't think it's all that it's cracked up to be. I always allude to the meme of what my friends think I do, what my mom thinks I do, what society thinks I do, and what I actually do. And it's pushing paper and reviewing drawings and doing a pro forma and following up with people. There's not that much ribbon cutting and flashiness.
Right, absolutely. One of the things you said earlier was Sandy has a lot of legacy land that was meant for big box retail, Canadian Tire, stores that aren't developing anymore. So that was a while back. And I think the last decade, the buzzword has been like multifamily, right? But like if we were to, look through a crystal ball here over the next 10 years or so, we've gone from big box to multifamily. Where do you see like the market shifting? Like, do you have a gut instinct or some inside info on what's the next big thing for development? Or do you think multifamily is going to continue on?
I think multifamily is going to be tricky because I don't think the returns are going to be what people thought they were. I think the returns are going to be very different than pro forma. It's way more expensive to operate these buildings, I think, than people think it is, or at least how we do it, and we think we do it properly.
Okay.
To do a pro forma with a 28% expense ratio, it's just not going to happen. And what people will also realize is the cost of turnover. So just as an example, at Taylor, we designed the building to accommodate an older clientele, specifically from the perspective of we can't make any money if the suites are turning over every year. So if our turnover rate is 12, 15%, there's no profit. Someone moves out, the suite's down for a month, it's $2,000 plus a month, you have to paint it, you probably have to fix the floor. It becomes a $5,000 and $6,000 experience on a turnover. So you add that up 10, 15 times a year, there's no profit at the end. So I think the multifamily sector is interesting from the perspective of everyone needs a place to live. Everyone understands the housing crisis and that we have a shortage.
Right.
But I just don't think the returns are there because of the construction costs, because of the land cost. It's very difficult. So it'll be interesting to see what happens over the next number of years. I think Winnipeg will be insulated from some of what you're seeing and some of the difficulties in Ontario. We continue to be very bullish on retail. We were bullish on retail in 2017, 2018 when no one wanted it. We were able to pick up a few assets, continuing to be bullish on it through COVID when it was obviously not a darling child, and it's really come back into light right now. And I would say that right now, people are talking about grocery-anchored retail like they were talking about multifamily because they understood during COVID how resilient it was. Essential services, you can't live without some of these businesses.
Yeah.
So
that's an interesting perspective. Yeah. So you're bearish on multifamily.
Not
you're
bearish,
bullish,
but it's just I just don't think it's all that it's cracked up to be.
Right. You're more bullish on the retail, the big box thing, even with like a lot of companies doing like direct to consumer as opposed to retail. That's good because you're right. It did die during COVID, but it's on the way back for sure. Okay.
Yeah, some of those big tenants don't exist like they used to. So the nature of our developments has changed where you have more drive-throughs, you have more QSRs, you have more services. So for example, you wouldn't be building 100 by 100. Maybe your building is 65 or 70 feet deep now. You leave some buildable on the table, but the drive-through in particular rents are very high and those spaces are very limited and in demand.
Right.
We went to ICSC Las Vegas this year, which is the big shopping center conference.
Okay.
And Vegas would be one of the bigger ones. They have one in Toronto. They have them across North America, maybe even international. And what we saw was really interesting from the retail development perspective. You look at a site plan, they have a Costco, and then they just have all pad sites, individual buildings with drive-throughs. There's no other big boxes. There's no run of 5 tenants in a row. Everyone has a drive-through. Everyone has their own parking, and you go talk to the tenants, and that's what everyone wants. So retail's pivoting a little bit from that perspective to more restaurant and service, and people that are in the building that we're in right now may be interested in being in a retail mall on Taylor where their customers can come and park for free, and it's close to their home. An interesting deal we just did was with TD Waterhouse on Taylor beside the Starbucks. So we have TD Waterhouse moving in there. They're very excited because a lot of their clients live close to the center. They can grab a Starbucks, they can go to the meeting, they can stop at Sobeys on the way home and go back home.
Amazing. One of the other things you mentioned that you're proudest, one of your proudest achievements is like building your team and mentoring your team. Like you mentioned, one of the things you get the most joy out of at work is mentoring some younger staff, but you also have staff that's been with Shindico for 10 plus years. Like that's some great longevity and some great tenure and loyal people, obviously. Can you elaborate on that? Like how are you guys able to retain your staff so well?
I think at the end of the day, people have a decision to make, and you have to give them a reason to want to be there. We have to perform for our people just like they have to perform for us. So we need to be cognizant that other folks may be talking to them all the time, and we have to give them a reason to stay. I think one of the most important things is the quality of work. And it's hard to get that quality of work in terms of the assets that we have from a property management perspective, where you're dealing with one owner generally, where you're not having to worry, do we have funds to do this? If it's the right thing to do for the property, that's what we want to do. So our quality of work at the office, I think, is very high. Always growing. Sandy and Robert don't live a very exorbitant lifestyle. They put a lot of money back into the business. They're very interested in seeing the growth of their staff. And as Sandy always says, we want to develop things so that we have things for people to manage and things for people to account for, and they have a new and exciting project. So that ethos, I think, is really important. And it's just a good place to work. We have a big social committee that plans events throughout the year. I think that we've excelled from that perspective. One of the changes that we made over the last 3 years was to create that social committee and give them a $10,000 or $15,000 budget every year to throw events, to bring everyone together, and it's worked out pretty well.
What's one of the cool events you guys had in the last year?
It's not a new event, but every year we do a 9-hole golf tournament, and then we have a barbecue at Sandy's house with the staff. So that's always fun, regardless of whether or not you golf.
Yeah.
Previously, we were playing at the Canoe Club, which is not in the best condition. This year we went to Assiniboine Golf Course, which was a welcome change.
Nice.
And it's always a great day.
Great. Awesome. What would you say to somebody who's like a 2012 version of you? They're young, maybe they don't have a lot of marketable skills like you mentioned earlier, not a lot of work experience, but they want to get into real estate or they want to get into property management. What type of advice would you give them?
You have to first make sure that you really like it. Property management is a unforgiving profession, I guess is what I would say. Very rarely are you getting a pat on the back or a thank you. You're typically the complaint department. But really you have to find someone that's willing to show you and be honest with you and just tell you how it will be. There's no point in beating around the bush or creating fluff. So if you can get that kind of mentorship or find someone to connect with to really tell you about the industry, I think that's a great avenue. And from my perspective, I mean, I identified Shindico as a company that I was really interested in working for. So if there's a company out there that you're really interested in working for, typically the senior people at these companies are happy to take a meeting. They're happy to tell you all about their life. They may not offer you a job, but they're happy to talk to you. Okay. So that would be the first step, I would say.
Yep.
And really showing a passion. I always tell the leasing guys, anyone will take a lunch with you once. Why are they going for lunch with you the second time? You better have a reason for them to want to meet you the second time. You better have some intel or something to share with them. So if you are meeting with someone, don't go in there cold. Watch YouTube videos, look at Investopedia, read online. Don't go in there and ask, what is CAM, if it's something that you're really interested in.
Right. If somebody like young was to do cold outreach to you and they're looking for mentorship, what's something that you would like to hear from them?
I do it all the time. Doing it right now with a few folks that aren't working at the office. I'm involved also with the U of M Real Estate Club, and I know you will be soon as well. So just getting in the fold with them and really come talk to me, and then I'll give you homework. Do the homework. Make sure that you come to the second meeting prepared, because that'll kind of be where the rubber hits the road. Anyone can have a meeting the first time.
Right.
The second time, have you done what we asked?
What's the homework?
Reading about the industry, studying some of our properties, looking at some of our competitors, reading a market report from Colliers or CBRE or Capital, really sinking your teeth in, driving around, asking a question about this building. What's the difference between property management and asset management? What is development? And really understanding some of the nuances of the business.
Right. So I'm assuming because they're pretty young, you're probably not looking necessarily for like right or wrong answers. It's more so for passion, like who's got the fire in their belly. Is that right?
For sure. And also, for me, the two most important things are try and care. Do you try and do you care? And I think if you kind of use those two benchmarks for senior people or junior people, you can weed through folks pretty quickly and see whether or not it's going to work.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things you mentioned earlier that I love that you said was you're able to keep people, and people have to perform for you, but you have to perform for them just as much. Like, what do you mean by that? And like, how can companies do that better?
It is a management style. There's no doubt that this industry and this business can be intense at times, and people really need to be willing to put in the extra effort when they need to. Our office in particular is very fast-paced, I would say, but there's also lots of opportunity for growth and for runway. So you have to have a situation where the young people can see the light at the end of the tunnel, and they can see that there is an opportunity for them with their career. I mean, they can look at me. I started as a property analyst. I worked my way up. There's lots of room within our organization specifically, but when you see someone start there and end up there, it can be an inspiration for some folks. So I think that is important, and really from the top down, that's where the culture is built. And Sandy and Robert are very engaged with all of the staff. They care about them. They care about their families. At the end of the day, it's a family business, and I think that feel is pretty important.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I agree with you. I'm a big believer that culture starts at the top, trickles its way down throughout an organization, and the people at the bottom are definitely feeling it, but it's the management and the leaders that really set the tone in a business. And it sounds like Shindico, you guys run pretty lean, but it sounds like that's the same philosophy you run with. For sure. And our mantra is succeeding by helping others succeed, and we live that not only externally but at the office. I will succeed if I deliver the next person for my job. Right. I'm not going to be there forever. I need to find the next person, train them, and put them in. And I think we have some really good young people that are trending in that way. That would be the best thing that I could do for Shindico. Amazing. Now, one of the big things that your company took on over the last few years was, like you said, you've been property managers, not necessarily developers. But now you started SNR Construction. So you started your own in-house construction company. Tell me a little bit about like why you decided to do that. We wanted to have a little bit more control over our projects and over our costs. We don't really intend on being in the market competing with any other contractors for the foreseeable future. We have a very robust pipeline of our own. And part of the driver wasn't to do the big apartment buildings and to do the warehouses. It was to do the small jobs, to do the facades, to split a space. That's where we will earn the most keep from SNR's perspective. Another contractor has a lot of overhead. I mean, we see the business. We know what the numbers are like now. And it's not hard. It's not easy, rather, to do those small jobs and make money as the contractor. Whereas if we can do them, for example, that TD Waterhouse that I was alluding to used to be Village Orthodontics on Taylor. We had to split the space. We had to put a new panel in, do some HVAC. It's not a lot of work, but if you go to a GC to do that, it could be $400,000 or $500,000, and we're able to do it for $200,000 or $250,000. That's huge savings. That's really accretive for our business. So it was geared initially towards let's get some of those smaller jobs done. And then our first big job was 480 debates.
which is an 84,000 square foot warehouse in St. Boniface Industrial Park.
Okay.
So we will be doing those kinds of jobs. We will be doing our apartments probably up to 150, 200 units to start. When we were exploring other avenues and other jobs, we're still in the market talking to general contractors. So that was kind of the driver of it, and really just having a little bit more control over our portfolio. We have tremendous visibility to see that we may have a facade to do at this mall next year or a roof to do here, and then we can tee it up with the team and hit the ground running.
Yeah, amazing. It's interesting because you probably have a lot of little jobs on the go at once, and you're right, like when you're saving 20, 30, 40% markup on 500K on multiple jobs concurrently, that's a lot of cost savings throughout the year.
For sure. And from SNR's perspective, our benchmark for SNR is what is the cost per square foot. It's not how much profit can you squeeze by marking up labor or marking up cell phones and toilets and general conditions. No, show us that you can build for a low cost per square foot and still maintain a higher level of quality than we were previously receiving. And that was borne out at 480 Debates. We delivered it for a really aggressive cost per square foot. We think the quality of the building is on par or higher than the other two that we built at the business park. So it was really exciting to see that. We just need some tenants there.
Yeah, amazing. What's been the biggest challenge getting into like the construction business? Because you were property management development for so long. Now you're also in construction. A lot of overlap there, but there's also a lot of differences.
Yeah, it's not an easy business. It's not an easy business. It takes a high level of organization, and I think from Shindico's perspective, our property management functions like a well-oiled machine. We're pretty spoiled in that regard. We have all of our processes documented, all of our templates. We have a really robust manual on an intranet at the office. So we need to get SNR to that point. But I mean, it's a startup. You need to document every process. You need to create every document. You need to create every template. So there's a lot of work that goes into it while also doing construction jobs.
Right.
So that was hard, I would say, and continues to be a challenge and something that we're working on. I have no doubt that we'll get there. We just need more bodies in the office to accomplish it, and we'll have that soon.
How do you feel like as AI evolves, it can help with that type of stuff? Like I've been hearing that it's like very involved with helping with like building processes within businesses.
It's
Would
pretty
you
good.
agree?
Yeah, I mean, we have the fancy ChatGPT, so we've been experimenting with it a little bit at the office. I find that it can't do a spreadsheet very well. If you ask it to prepare this, the formatting isn't necessarily to our desire.
Right.
It's pretty good for laying out some 30,000 foot views, I would say, but it still requires a lot of prompts. You still have to pull the document down and edit it. You still have to pull the document down and format it. You're still tinkering with it, but yeah, it gives you a great first crack.
Right.
And then from there, we can layer in some of our ideas and other.
Yeah, I've noticed that too with spreadsheets particularly. Like it doesn't formulate cells definitely the way that you would do it manually, that's for sure. Okay, interesting. Now, what would you say to the 2012 version of Alex? You know, you graduated U of T and you didn't even know what you wanted to do, to now you're the COO of Shindico, 10, 15 years later. What would you say to the younger Alex today? Would you think he'd look up on you and be proud?
Yeah, I think so. Everything happens for a reason, and that's one of my core philosophies. Something will happen today. We won't know what the reason is for it for some time. But what's really interesting is a lot of the experience that I thought was poor, for example, in Ottawa, working on process maps and process flows for a TD MBNA integration, is actually really valuable. It taught me how a system works. It lets me view our database and our CRM from a different perspective in terms of I know how those tables work, and I know that this is going to talk to that cell, and I know that we can run a mail merge effectively out of it. So it didn't seem like great experience at the time, super valuable. And then when I came back to Winnipeg, I had my own business with a few friends doing websites and marketing materials and that kind of thing. And it was also really good experience because it taught me about marketing, which is a key component of our business, and I'm able to sit with our marketing team and mark up a brochure and understand how the back end of the website works and understand how we can use that contact form to potentially generate leads for the agent. So everything kind of came together in terms of a randomness of experience,
right? And
that was really nice to see. But yeah, just put your head down and work, and everything will work out.
Yeah. Man, you really have touched every role in that company, haven't you?
Yeah, it's good though. And then again, it just gives you that breadth and that visibility. So when you're meeting with someone, you kind of know, okay, they should talk to this person or that person and be that bridge.
I think that's what makes really good humble leaders too, is people that have experienced everything. There's a lot of people out there that feel like other jobs are below them, right? And typically those are the types of leaders that are always sitting above somebody else. They're on a pedestal. There's a power play. But somebody who's willing to get their fingers dirty in every aspect of the business, that's the leader and that's the mentor that you want to look for.
For sure. I mean, we're big believers that no one there is sitting in an ivory tower. I sit in the bullpen. I don't have an office. I sit beside a property analyst and a property manager. And I think that's really important because then you're hearing what's going on and you, again, are just finger on the pulse much more with the business. And a key driver for Shindico and SNR is the people at the top need to be willing to do the worst job. I mean, I was vacuuming the floor at the office because someone tracked in mud last week. That's what I'll do. I mean, the CFO, same thing. We will do the worst jobs. If there's a grenade, we're going to jump on it. It's not a matter of stepping on anyone's toes. We just have to get the stuff done. And if you have that mentality kind of top down, it trickles through, and I think it works pretty well.
Absolutely, man. I bet you that anybody listening to this right now would have never guessed that you sit in the bullpen with everybody else. They probably thought the COO of Shindico has a nice, big, fancy corner office, glass walls.
Nope.
But it's true. When you really want the best for other people, you sit out in the open with them, and they listen and learn from every word they hear you. That's one of the things that I preach all the time, learning through osmosis. So important. Yeah.
Especially for young folks. And just, I always say also, we have some really senior agents, and they sit in a bullpen as well, separate bullpen. But when you're in the room with them, it doesn't matter if you're an estimator for SNR Construction. If Michael's on the phone, stop what you're doing and just listen. Listen to how he talks to people, listen to some of the questions he's asking, listen to the conversation they're having, and then when he's done, ask him a few questions about it. He'll be happy to talk to you about it.
Yeah.
But just exactly what you said, that learning through osmosis and really working with some of the senior folks at the office.
Yeah, it's learning and just hearing that other people actually experience it. Like, these are phone calls, these are conversations that you have that you can't learn in an MBA course.
Correct.
Right? It's a totally different type of education, on-the-job education.
Especially for our industry. I mean, you know it. It's a pretty cutthroat industry. It is the real world. It is the Wild West to a certain extent from regulation. There's not a lot of it. So, yeah, it can be cutthroat. And, yes, you do not learn that in school.
Absolutely, man. Awesome. Alex, thank you so much for coming on Careers Under Construction today.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. We were talking earlier, 2 years from now, we're going to have you back on. Same seat, but I think from COO, you'll probably be in the CEO chair at that point, and we'll have a totally different conversation. So thanks again, man.
Thank you for having me.
Awesome.
Awesome. Thank you.